Hello, hello, hello. This is Kenny Perkins, aka your cancer guy. And again, as I always say, and I mean it, we have another phenomenal guest on our show. You know, a lot of times we bring men on that we can get because men don't like to speak about what's going on with them. It's a little difficult. You know, we don't talk about it. We go through it, we internalize, and we keep moving. So when we can get someone on the show who can talk about their journey, talk about it, and express their feelings, we are honored. And so our next guest, let me tell you, he's no secret. This man has been all around your television set. I mean, if you ever seen BET, we have Donnie Simpson. This man was on that show. You've seen Good Morning America. This person was handling the weather for that show. If you're in DC and you're watching Fox or you're watching NBC, he's been on that show. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. We're bringing someone in who is a TV personality, and he's going to talk to us about his journey because we want to benefit you. We want to make sure that we can give you some gems or something that you can walk away with as you go through this journey with, or your family may be going through the journey. So this next guest, it's an honor. It's an honor for more than one reason. And I hope you guys know. I said Kenny Perkins, but this is a Perkins. I'm okay. I'm bringing you another Perkins. No relation, but I don't know. It could be, but I
Never
mean,
know.
you never know. But I'm bringing you another Perkins, and so it's my honor. It's my privilege to introduce and bring to the show Tony Perkins to All Talk Oncology. Tony, welcome.
Kenny, thank you very that is a very nice introduction. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be with you. I keep doing the research to see we might be connected some kind of way. I may
Right?
find it at some point, but I'm happy to be here. And let me just say this: thank you for having me, and thank you for your patience because we've been talking about this for a few months now, and obviously I've had a lot going on, but I'm glad we finally made this happen.
Oh, Tony, it's an absolute privilege, and I can imagine how busy you are. So we really appreciate you here at All Talk Oncology to just be able to carve out some time for us and to speak about it to our listeners. You know, and first and foremost, that's what we want to do. We want to provide
Mhm.
value. We want to empower those through these insightful conversations. You know, to reinforce confidence and certainty about their cancer condition. So thank you for that, Tony.
Anything I can do, I appreciate it.
So Tony, I mean, you had quite the career here. You know, talk to me a little bit about how you landed in the entertainment industry and being in here in front of the cameras and things like that. How did that happen?
Well, that is a good question, particularly considering that when I was younger, a teenager, I was quite shy. And I mean, I was always drawn to entertainment, television. When I was a little kid, I used to my mom used to talk about how I would impersonate some of the newscasters or the game show hosts. I would hold a hairbrush and pretend it was a microphone and interview family members and that kind of thing. And it's funny because when I was a young kid into my teens, like every child, I watched TV, but I really was studying it as well. Didn't realize that at the time. And I came to, I really paid a lot of attention to the hosts, the anchors, how they behaved, and all of that kind of thing. And it's interesting because it wasn't any conscious thing that I was doing, but that definitely happened, and it helped me. It helped inform the early parts of my career when I actually started trying to get some of these jobs and doing some of these things. But the main thing for me was in high school, because I was so shy, I took a public speaking course, and it changed my life. It really changed my life. It allowed me to open up. Um, I'd always been kind of the funny kid, at home in particular, but it allowed me to kind of open up with friends and in the school environment. And all of that just kind of started this path of being a more public persona. Um, I like to say my career started when I was doing stand-up comedy. And I did that as a dare, really. I mean, I was interested in doing it, but some friends of mine said, you're really funny. You should try stand up. And I'd never thought of that before. And so I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I went to an open mic night. I wrote 7 minutes of material. I did the material. It went really well. I was like, oh, this is great, making people laugh. So I wrote another 7 minutes. I went back a week or two later, and it was terrible. I bombed completely. And that was kind of oddly enough what hooked me because I thought, how could I have been just so great 2 weeks ago and this week I can't buy a laugh? And it was kind of the almost the science of it that really attracted me. And so I worked hard at it. I traveled around. I ended up doing stand-up comedy for 9 years and performing in all kinds of venues, comedy clubs, colleges, concerts. I opened for Aretha Franklin and Sinbad and Tommy Davidson, Smokey Robinson, all kinds of people. Um, and I started also doing radio in DC, my hometown. And while I was doing these things, I met a man who was in the audience at one of my comedy shows. And he, as it turned out, was the program director for one of the TV stations here. And he said, I'm looking for somebody to do this certain thing, and asked if I'd be interested. I said, yes. And I started doing television. And then it just snowballed. And I've been very blessed to be able to do a wide variety of things from local TV to national TV, entertainment, weather, news, podcasting. It's been extraordinary. It's been great.
Imagine that. I mean, what a journey just to just to see how that has evolved, from your story here. But think about that. This you started out as a shy person.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like here you were someone that was shy, but you put yourself out there. And I think that's the key, right? You got to put yourself out there in spite of your fears.
I completely agree. And there have been a number of times. Listen, for someone like me, um, having come from that shy background, to step up onto a stage in a comedy club with it's just me and a microphone and the audience. I'm still kind of surprised that I did it. And when I was first offered the opportunity to be a weather forecaster for Fox 5, the Fox station in Washington, D.C., I had no experience doing weather. I had some experience doing entertainment television. I had radio experience and I had the comedy experience, but I had no experience doing the weather. And when I was asked to do it, my initial reaction was, well, thank you for asking, but no, I don't want to do that. I'm not qualified to do that. And the guy who hired me said, well, let's have lunch. Let's sit down and talk about it. So we did. And what they were really looking for was a personality. This was 25 years ago, or whatever it was, maybe 30 years ago. And what they were looking for was a personality for their morning show who would be the weathercaster, but would also be out in the field every day, at the state fair, previewing, all kinds of stuff. Very much like what Willard Scott and Al Roker were doing on the Today Show. They wanted to do that locally. And they said, we'll teach you the weather. You can learn all the weather stuff. We want to hire you for your personality. So I said, okay, I'll take a shot at it. And it was again, even that's kind of crazy and I had to go through some training and all of that kind of thing to get the weather part of it down. But um, it's again a little bit crazy to say, yes, I'll be a TV weatherman, having no experience and that having not been one of my plans. But that is what led to everything else that happened. Good Morning America, news anchoring, That's what led to all of that. So again, it was a good decision. And you're right, and you and I have talked about this a little bit off air. Um, you do have to put yourself out there, and you have to, there are times, and I know that this is your philosophy too. There are times where you just have to say, you know, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give that a shot. And listen, I will do all the studying I need to do and whatever it is, the research and everything, to be good at it. But sometimes it's very much worth it to take that risk and say, yeah, this is an interesting challenge. I'm going to try
Yes, 100%. And all of us are happy that you did, right?
it.
We get to see you and in your element and how you shine in that position. I do want to talk to you a little bit because you know we you were diagnosed with, I want to say, is it prostate cancer,
That's
correct?
correct. Yeah.
But before we get into that, what was Tony Perkins doing, let's say a year or two prior to that diagnosis? What was life like for Tony prior to?
Life was quite enjoyable. And again, you'll probably hear me say the word blessed or fortunate a lot because I really do feel that way. That does not mean that everything has been smooth. There have been many bumps. There have been things that I wanted to do that I was not able to do. You audition for things or whatever, and you don't get that, whatever. But there's always this alternate reality that could have been, but the reality that you're in is the one that I always think is the one you're meant to be in. But before the diagnosis, I was doing morning TV. I was doing afternoon radio with Donnie Simpson, who everyone knows from Video Soul and BET. And in addition to his extraordinary TV career, um, he's had an extraordinary radio career. And people around the nation they don't know as much about that because it's been local here in TV in DC primarily. But Donnie was number one on the local airwaves for years and years and years. We worked together in the 80s and early 90s. Then we went on doing different things, and then we got back together. I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that. The show's over now, but we did that for 6 or 7 years. And I was doing that. My son was in high school, then in college. And, life, we're just going on about our life, working hard, trying to get my son through school and all of that. And then came this kind of surprising diagnosis.
Yeah. So how did you come across that? Was it a routine check? Were you experiencing some type of symptoms? What was it?
So I wasn't really experiencing symptoms. I am one of those guys, and this one of the reasons I really appreciate what you do, the show that you do, the people that you talk to, and one of the reasons I really did want to come on is to talk about this because a lot of folks, a lot of folks don't talk about it. They don't do the things that they really should do to stay on top of their health. Men in particular are not as good, generally speaking, as women about this. Black men are really not as good about all of this. I've not been that way. I've always been, I get my yearly physical, I get my checkups, all of that. I get my colonoscopies when I'm supposed to, and all of that. Some time ago, as happens to most men, if not all, as you age, my prostate started to become enlarged. Not in any extreme way. Well, again, it wasn't extreme because we stayed on top of it. I had a urologist, and we were monitoring it. And then my what's called a PSA, you've probably talked about this on the show before, my PSA number, and that's an antigen test, it's a blood test. Um, that number started going up. And it was a gradual increase. It wasn't I didn't go one day and it jumped to this. Again, that's because I was getting regular checkups. If I had said, "Oh, I'm not dealing with this for 5 years," and then gone back, well, that wouldn't have been good news probably. So I was doing my routine checkups. PSA numbers went up, got to the point where my urologist recommended an MRI. And as you know, this is the standard course when it comes to concerns with prostates. Um, I did an MRI. The MRI indicated an area of concern, and that was enough to say, okay, let's do a biopsy. And we did a biopsy, and in August of 2022, um, 2022, yes, in August of 2022, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Um, it wasn't uh, it wasn't a severe case. It wasn't an aggravated cancer, but it was cancer. And what I then went into was what's called what is the term? Active surveillance, where we just kept an eye on it. Got the regular blood tests, all of that, and we see what will happen. And I did that for 2 years, and then ended up having another MRI, another biopsy, and at that point, my doctor said, "Okay, let's we need to do something about this."
For sure. Well, I love that part. You know, and because enlarged prostate doesn't mean that you're going to have prostate cancer.
Nope.
It doesn't mean that. But the PSA is important because it gives you a number. And it's interesting. I want to pause here because as as African American men, we are at risk as far as percentage as far as getting prostate cancer, whether we know that or not.
Yep.
And as minorities, it's important that we know our number. I always say we know Jordan's number, we know
Right.
we know Kobe's number, but do we know our PSA number?
Right.
Right? You
Let me
know,
show you something.
yeah.
I was sent this hat by American Cancer Society once I went public with this. Know your score.
Yes,
That's what that is all about.
yes, we need to know it, and so it's. I thank you. I thank you for shedding light on that and helping us to see. Doesn't rush into, oh my God, I have cancer. We took the active steps,
Right.
MRI, and then decided to do something about it once those numbers elevated. So I appreciate you
And can
expressing.
I want to add something to what you just said. You know, Men are funny, and we're sensitive, and there's a lot of listen, there's a lot of psychological stuff that goes on, and I don't want problems down in that area. I'm a man, all that kind of thing. And one of the things that I've learned is that when it comes to the I don't know how graphic we can be, the digital rectal exam, a lot of guys are like, no, 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 I'm not doing that. Okay, first of all, it takes 8 seconds, maybe. It doesn't hurt, and it does give your doctor some information. Having said that, as you probably know, that is becoming less and less common because urologists are now finding that, you know what, when we do that exam, we can only feel part of the prostate. So we're only getting partial information. It tells us it's enlarged, but that's about it. And so that's becoming less and less common. I didn't know that until a few months ago. So it's nothing to worry about. First of all, if you need to get one, but in all likelihood, maybe you won't get one. It may just be let's do the blood test, monitor the PSA, and that's a blood test. And we'll monitor that number, and then we'll decide from there.
100%. 100%. And so it's nice to know that you stayed active, proactive on this journey of getting yourself checked out, because a lot of times going to the physician is not the easiest thing for a lot of us, right?
Right, right,
Especially men, we don't want to go to the doctor. I'm okay.
right.
I'll get through this. And so for you to go through to see a routine check with your physician was remarkable. Thank you for that.
Yep.
And I hope people are paying attention. If you're a man out there, you're over 50, they say get out here, get your prostate check, PSA. prostate antigen, right? Specific
Yes,
prostate specific antigen. Get that done. It's a
I'm
blood
one of those
test.
guys. I'd rather know than not know. And I've literally heard, particularly some older men say, what I don't know won't hurt me. Well, yes, it will. Yeah, I mean, it could.
Mhm.
And I've heard men say, I don't want to go to a doctor. I'm not doing these tests because they're going to find something wrong. Well, that's why you go, so that you have a better chance to overcome whatever that is that they find, manage it, treat it, cure it, whatever, and then you go on with your life. So I think
Sure.
knowledge is better.
Yes, 100%. Now, Tommy, I mean, so you go through this exam, you have your MRI, you find out, okay, let's do something about it. Did they stage you? And then when they stage you, what was your staging? And then number two, how did you tell your family?
Oh boy. When I first was diagnosed a couple of years ago, and again, we did active surveillance for a couple of years, but when I was first diagnosed, that's always, no one likes hearing that word. And I was shocked because my health is generally good. Um, And so here's what I will tell you. What I didn't know. Yes, I go to the doctor, I get checkups. Didn't know my family history, and so I was not aware until later, and talking to a cousin and some others, um, that on my father's side of the family, prostate cancer has run rampant through the men in my family. I did not know that. So I was completely shocked when I had it. I never thought anyone would tell me I had any kind of cancer. And oddly enough, when I got the phone call, my wife and I were on a little weekend trip with another couple in Cleveland, of all places, to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Um, and I got the call while I was there. And, my doctor was great. He was very reassuring. He said, "We've caught this early, but when you get back, I want you and Rhonda, my wife, to come in and we'll talk about the options and all of that." So, number one, I was shocked. I was upset, but I didn't break down or anything. I just, because again, I'm kind of like, all right, well, I know we're going to meet with him and we'll find out then more details. So I tried not to worry about it. I told my wife, and she was, as is often the case for us, if we're fortunate, our wives or the women in our lives are strong and wise. And, I think she was taken aback, but she very much went into, okay, well, we're going to do whatever we have to do mode. And she kind of stayed in that mode the whole time, which is remarkable and wonderful and made it easier for me to get through all this. Didn't tell my son for a while because I didn't want him to worry. Um, I don't remember when we eventually told him, but again, I went through 2 years of just knowing I have it and we're watching it. The more difficult part was last summer, when it had not spread, but it had become more and aggressive. It wasn't more aggressive. That wasn't the right word, but it was becoming the quality of the cancer, as they say. And that was a term that I'd never heard, and it sounds kind of odd, but the quality of the cancer had changed and indicated that it was evolving, and we needed to go in. That was hard because I thought 2 years ago, I thought, okay, I could go 10 years not having to do anything. Prostate cancer is it's different for everybody. And it's generally a very slow progressing cancer. So you could be diagnosed with it and not have to do anything for 5, 7, 10 years or something like that. As you know, Kenny, many older men who are significantly older are diagnosed with it. And if it's diagnosed at an early stage, it might not even be treated because it's so slow to progress, generally speaking, that what they say is you'll die of something, but it won't be of prostate cancer if you're old. Um, so I thought I had a lot of time 2 years ago. It was more upsetting when I found out I didn't. And then I had to go through the process that everyone does of, and it's a lot. Talking, I met with a radiology oncologist, talked about the radiation options, of which there are many. I talked to a surgeon about a prostatectomy. And, these various treatments all have their pros and cons. Um, it's very much, I think, it's a decision that a man makes, I think, in conjunction with his family, but you have to figure out where you are in your life, your age, your prognosis, um, um, what you're willing to accept or not accept, because the each does all of those, and you know this very well. Radiation comes with its own possible complications and side effects. Surgery does as well. I did all the research, and for me, I just ended up choosing the surgery, and had a what's called a laparoscopic nerve sparing robotic prostatectomy. And I had that on January 7th of this year and had my
Okay.
prostate removed.
Yes.
And that was a whole nother thing, which we'll talk about.
Now, getting mentally prepared for that must have been a challenge for you, huh, Tony?
Yeah, it was. The only time I've ever had surgery in my life, like I said, I'm generally healthy. I had a hernia 10 years ago, so I had surgery to have that hernia repaired. Um, and this was major surgery. They're removing an organ in my body. And so I was nervous. Um, I I'll be very honest. The thing that I really, you know, the thought of having the surgery was a little nerve-wracking. Um, I kind of dealt with that better than the thought of, and I don't want to scare anybody, but the thought of after surgery having to have a catheter for 5 or 6 days afterwards. Uh, which is, after the surgery, while you're knocked out, they put the catheter into your penis, and so that urine flow happens, because they've done a lot of work down there, and you got to make sure things are going. That terrified me. That really terrified me, and I just thought I can't deal with that. First of all, it sounds painful. It just sounds awful. And that scared me more than anything else, oddly. And I've talked to some men, and I've met other men who said, "Oh, no, 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 I'm not doing that." And in fact, I remember saying in my younger, before all of this happened, in my 30s or whatever, I would hear a guy say he had some procedure, had to have a catheter, and I said, "Let me tell you something. If I ever have a situation where it requires a catheter, I'm not doing it. I'm just, but when push comes to shove, and my urologist, who was great, he actually said to me one day, if you elect, he said, listen, do whatever you're going to do, surgery, radiation. He said, but if your choice is to not have the surgery just based on the catheter, I'm really going to be upset with you. He said, that's no reason not to have it. And he was right. You know, the catheter is inconvenient. Um, it's not painful. It's odd to look at. you know. Um, my wife again was wonderful, because when you go home, you have a. I haven't been this open in other venues, but I'm going to be here. You have a bag collecting your urine, and my wife would help me dump that out and everything. She was great. She was great. And this went on for 5 days. The most emotional I got was when I went home from the hospital with the catheter, with the instructions on how to care for it, how to empty the bag. That's when I really cried and got upset, because I just kind of thought, what have I just gone through, and what am I going through, and am I going to be okay? Because you feel a little helpless at that point. That was the most emotional I got. My wife helped me through that. Um, that 5 or 6 days was the toughest because you're just you can't lift anything. Your diet is different because you don't want to irritate your bladder and all that kind of thing. So that the days after were a little rough. Not particularly painful. You're on pain medication, but that's when the psychology of it all really hit me. Once the catheter was out, and that was not a painful thing. Well, first of all, when they said, "Oh, you'll take it out," I'm like, "Oh no, I won't. I'm not taking this out." They said, "No, there's no need to come all the way back here for us to take it out." And they tell you how to do it, and I won't go into detail. It's easy. It's easy. It's weird, but it's easy. Once that was out, and then I really started to recover, and it's a process. There's blood in your urine for a while, and you have to monitor that, and there's some incontinence that comes with it. That's just what happens. But you do exercises and all of that, and you recover. Some people recover more quickly than others. My recovery has gone very, very well, fortunately, knock on wood. But everything's good now. I'm good, and I'm very glad that it's out of me. And
Mm,
I've had my first follow-up blood test, and I'm cancer free.
wow,
So I'm very happy, and I'm what I went through was worth going through. Absolutely.
100%. Tony, it a lot of times as we go through that, you talked about getting emotional. What allowed you or what pushed you to have the resilience to bounce back, right? I mean, because sometimes you can stay there. You find out a lot of times we go through something and we're just stuck.
Mhm.
How did you get the resilience? Okay, you at some point you said, okay, I've gone through this. This is my situation, but and then that change happens. Was it something internal? Was it the help you were receiving from your partner and your
Yeah.
family? What allowed you to make that transition?
That's a great, great, great question. And it was a couple of things. The first thing I'll say is my wife, Rhonda, um, she just really was, to her, I never saw her get upset about this. And in fact, I should probably ask her if she ever did. I don't really know, but I never saw her get upset. I mean, obviously she was concerned, but I never saw her break down and cry or anything like that. And she was just very positive and, like with the catheter situation, she would say, it's just 2 more days, just 2 more days. And, after that, and, is, if you're wearing adult diapers for a little while, and it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. She said, well, it's not terrible. It's what everyone goes through, and it's going to get better. And so she was very positive. That helped. My son, who this was his senior year of college, and he had a lot on his plate, and I didn't want him to be overly concerned. So there was part of me that felt, okay, I got to push through this for him. But here's the other thing that I will tell you. My 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 favorite thing in life is to laugh. And I have all my really good friends make me laugh. I think I make them laugh. As you know, as I mentioned earlier, we did the stand-up comedy for years. Donnie Simpson is one of my best friends, and all the times that we work together, um, we just laugh and laugh and laugh. We've had so much fun over the years. I have another good friend, Gary. He's the one I used to do the podcast with. Um, you know, we would have serious conversations about everything going on, and then he would say something funny that would just relate it to it, and but would make me laugh. And getting to the point where you can find the humor, and believe it or not, there's humor in almost everything. Um, um, that helped a lot. That helped a lot. Because when someone says something funny, and particularly if it's about your case, it lightens that load immediately, and it's almost like it allows in some hopefulness. it's the hopefulness is there just waiting. And when that light comes, it's like, okay, here we come, here we go. So that helped me a lot. It really did.
Yes. I love that. And so for those, I mean, that Tony just dropped some gems here. It can be overwhelming, but try not to take things too seriously. And
Yeah.
that's the key here. And I know that may be hard to do because we're talking about cancer. But regardless of what we're going through, try not to take things so seriously. And man,
Right.
Tony, you dropped some gems there because we all do that, right? This is the end of the world for us,
Right.
whatever it may
Right.
be, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, thank you for shedding light on that. And I'll be curious to find out how your wife felt.
Yeah.
Because you know what, that other half, they know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
They know us better than when we know ourselves sometimes. And
Yeah. And I have thanked her many, many times and all of that. But this is a little enlightening, this conversation, because I have not asked her, what was your lowest moment? So I should do that. I will.
yeah, yeah. So Tony, here we are. This happened in the beginning of this year.
Hmm.
And you look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Your spirit, who you are, how you carry yourself, and that I hope you guys see this on the YouTube channel as well. Not only listen to it, but see the video on the YouTube channel. Tony, he looks remarkable. How has that transition from January to today happened? Like how has Tony's view of life changed?
Wow. It's a deep show, Kenny. Um, wow. How has it changed? I guess I'm not sure if it has changed that much because of what my psychological makeup is anyway, but certainly it has made me realize that there are challenges in life. Um, s- Frequently they're unexpected. Sometimes they are potentially, if not life-threatening, certainly threatening in terms of what your quality of life is going to be. But if you pray, you know, that helps for me. In fact, the thing I've found myself saying more than anything else, because I went public with this because I was away from my job for 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks, to have the surgery and the recovery. And so I went public with it on the air. It said why I was going to be out. Uh, I did, on the day of the surgery, a camera crew came in, not to the surgery, but for the prep, and we talked to the doctor and all that kind of thing. And so I did a couple of stories about this and some specific stories for Black men on why you should get this checked. Um, so I was very public with it, and because I was public, people are wonderful in terms of, and I'm sure you know this through your program, but when people get to know you, feel like they get to know you, and you're vulnerable and open and honest with them and what have you, the response is tremendous. So I had thousands and thousands of people praying for me, um, wishing me well, and I read all that stuff, because I was off for 3 weeks. I could scroll through Twitter, um, and see all of that. And that I can't, and I did do some posts about this afterwards on my social media. I cannot tell you how much that helped. The thought of, obviously my family's praying for me, my son and my brother and my wife and my other family and my friends, but knowing that there were thousands of people praying, that was extraordinary, and it was very, very helpful. Um, the other thing is, um, listen, we all know some bad things happen in life. Sometimes they happen, but often There's the expression, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And I think if you pray, if you do what you're supposed to do, do the research, ask the questions, get the support. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this program, because talking about this, talking to you, and this is your specialty in terms of, telling these stories and all that kind of thing. It helps. It helps me. Hopefully, it helps others, but it helps me in unburdening myself and doing all that. So just do the work, pray, um, be optimistic, and 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 you can get through it. You can get through it. Listen, there are people who, have much worse situations. But and every now and then you hear of someone who has a terminal illness or what have you. But more often than not, when you hear about those people, or you know them or what have you, they find a peace, and they sometimes repair relationships that had been broken or what have you. There is good that can come out of almost anything. So, that's what I try to be aware of. I try to be optimistic. Um, so I think that, I don't know if I answered the question, but I think that's what has helped me get through. And that's the change. A lot of that was there, but this kind of underlined it for me,
Yes.
you know. Oh yeah, some bad things can happen, but you can get through them.
Yes. And Tony, it's remarkable to see because you are thriving. You go through a surgery like this, and it can be life altering, you know, but it doesn't stop you from being the best who you can be. And that's what I love about you. We offline we talked about some of the projects you're working on and
Mhm.
what you're doing, and that part shows that resiliency. You have not stopped being creative,
Mhm.
right?
Right,
And
right.
that part is what breathes life into everyone around us. So we thank you for that.
I thank you. And let me, and it's funny. This is great talking to you. It really is, because it's kind of eye-opening for me too. So yeah, I shared with you earlier that a good friend of mine and I have just finished a screenplay that we are now going to try to sell. And you know what? I hadn't even really thought about this and put two and two together, but probably because this is something we've talked about for a long time, long, long, long time. Probably the fact that this all happened influenced, for me at least, like, you know what? We've been saying we're going to do it. Let's do it. Come on, let's do it. And I don't even think I've thought about that until just now. I think it was a subconscious thing that, listen, life is short. There are other things I want to do. Let's do them.
Yes.
So thank you.
That's what I'm here. This is my gift, and to be able to share it. And you know what, Tony, what I know about you in the short time that I've known you is that through your shyness, the blessing has come. And now here you are, like, man, life is short. Why not do this? Man, I can see the blessings going to come, and so that gives me light, right? Because sometimes we get in our own way, and
Yeah,
when you see other people break that barrier, you just like, man, I want to continue and break my barrier to get to the blessing that I know I want. So thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, what you and your family are planning. You have something in the future that you guys want to do now? I mean, because, life is short. We learn
Yeah.
this, right? And when you get diagnosed, our perspective about, man, putting things off is not necessarily what we do anymore. We're like, "Well,
Right.
let's do something."
Right.
So what are
So
you and
right
your
now
family
where we
doing?
are, as I mentioned earlier, my son just graduated from college a week ago. Um, and so he is now at the beginning of his adulthood and career and all of that kind of thing. And we have put some things off because of the recovery time and all that kind of thing. And so the next thing we haven't planned the next thing we want to do yet, but we want to celebrate him, go on a trip somewhere. He likes to travel. He likes the beach and warm weather, so we'll do that. I'm sure it'll be good for all of us having gone through everything that we've gone through, and that's kind of that's what's right in front of me right now. And in the days ahead, we're going to plan that and figure that out.
100%. What a proud moment, right? I mean, being able to raise an intelligent young man who's finishing college. I mean, that in itself has been an accomplishment. It speaks volumes about you and your wife and what you've done. And what a way to celebrate all of that and
Yeah.
everything you've gone through and accumulated. And what a blessing that's going to be.
And he is a blessing. We are very fortunate. I think we did a pretty good job. Obviously you make a mistake here or there, but my wife and I tell her you have been an amazing mom. Um, he is a very he's a church going, serious minded, but he's very funny. He's very creative. He's doing some things similar to me, but off in his own direction, digital media and all that kind of thing. And he came through school, graduated cum laude, is that what they call it? And we're just very, very proud. We're very blessed. He has never caused us any great anxiety or problems. We had dinner last night. I thanked him. I said, some parents go through a lot with their kids. We did not. I think part of that is the job we've done, but part of it is who he is. We're our own people, and so I'm very proud of who he is. I'm very excited to see what happens for him in the years ahead because I think he's got a lot of potential.
Yes. The funniness and creativity. I
Yep.
wonder where he gets that from. Yes. Tony, it's been a blessing to be able to have you here on the show. But before we let you go, I like to say, what would you say to those that are listening and that may be going through something similar as this? What would you say to them?
I would say this. When you're hit with something like this, and listen, we know there are a wide variety of cancers. What we do know is that for many cancers, there are extraordinary strides that have been made in the treatment and care and even curing of some cancers. So, the C word is scary. No one wants to hear it. But first of all, if you stay on top of your health, you'll be ahead of the game because, the best thing in the world is to be able to catch something early, whatever it is, particularly cancer, to catch it early. Your options are much more varied and your prognosis is much better. Um, so stay on top of your health. If when something comes along, listen to the doctor, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, do your research. I will say this, and I know a lot of people jump online and start Googling stuff. Uh, I didn't do that because I know, is there valid information out there? Yes. Is there a lot of invalid information? Yes. And sometimes what you will read will scare you to death, and it does not necessarily have anything to do with you and your situation. So I would kind of avoid the jumping online and trying to diagnose yourself. I'd listen to the doctors. If you don't like what your doctor has said, get a second opinion. Um, when it comes to cancer, there's surgery, there's radiation. It's different for different types of cancer, but consider the various options. Talk to the doctors, and that will help you. Number one, it'll help you make you feel better about what your situation is. It will help you see that there is hope and there is light there, and you'll be well informed, and And I think the more questions that you ask, sometimes I think we think I don't want to bother the doctor. And maybe some doctors give off that demeanor, but you know what? It's part of their job. Most doctors like answering the questions. They like that you are involved in your own care. You're being your own advocate, because you should be. So do the research, ask the questions, have that support. Don't hide it. If you've got a significant other, talk to them, because you're going to have to talk to somebody to help you get through this. So that's what my advice would be.
I love it. And thank you for that. Listen, you don't have to go through these things alone. What Tony talked about, there's ways to get through this, and there's programs and whatnot. We've created a program here at our All Talk Oncology. It's called I Have Cancer, Am I Going to Die?
Mm,
And that is the thought we get sometimes, right, from the misconceptions of cancer. But we walk you through each step by step the misconceptions of cancer, what radiation is about, what chemotherapy may be about, what surgery is about, and we walk you through that whole process. So just know you're not alone in this,
right.
right? And so thank you so much, Tony, for coming on All Talk Oncology, being an open book, and just being vulnerable and telling your story. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for reaching out to me. And again, like I said earlier, thank you for the patience, because there has been a lot going on, but I'm glad we both hung in there and made this happen. I really, really appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this.
Yes, thank you so much. And so for those listening in, remember, you're not alone in this. We're in this together. This is Kenny Perkins, aka your cancer guy. And until again, I'm out.
So stay connected with us on All Talk Oncology Cancer Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to that, right? Wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that's Apple, Spotify, make sure you subscribe and continue to spread that word, right? Engage in this, because your engagement can help someone stay alive. And this is what we're talking about. So again, make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button. Again, this is Kenny Perkins, aka your cancer guy. Until again, I'm out.